Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today in our webinar. We're hoping to explain how Alberta Law Libraries can help you help the public approach legal questions. My name is Ana San Miguel. I'm the manager of user experience programs and partnerships for Alberta Law Libraries. The presentation is being recorded. When we finish, or once I have the recording together and posted, I will send everyone an email and we'll attach the slides, a handout that we've prepared, and a link to where the recording is going to live, which will be on our website. So it will be open to anyone who visits our website. If you have any questions, please use the chat. You're all muted and your cameras are off. So we'll mostly leave the questions for the end unless it really makes sense to stop the presentation and ask Angela and Rob the question. And if there are any questions that we don't get to, we'll just make sure to email back to all of you with whatever the answer is. So before we start, I wanted to acknowledge the land on which we're gathered, which is traditional and ancestral territory of many peoples, including the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney Nakoda, and the Tsuut'ina Nation, as well as the Métis people of Alberta. These and other First Nations, Métis, and Inuit have lived in and cared for these lands for generations, and we should respect and honor the fact that we are all subject to the treaties signed on this land, which are 6, 7, and 8 for Alberta. I wanted to invite everyone to persevere in your learning and continue to listen to knowledge keepers and elders so we can all improve our understanding of history and culture and continue to learn from each other. As librarians, we have the means to access knowledge and information, and we also have the responsibility to continue to educate ourselves and others about the treaties and our responsibility under them. And I wanted to share with you a website that I just learned about very recently. I'll put it on the chat. It's a native land website, and it's really quite cool, and it shows all the different territories, languages from all around the world, indigenous lands, and it's adding more and more links for more information for each of the groups. So I'll enter that in the chat in a second for all of you to look at if you want to. And with that, I'm going to let Angela and Rob present our webinar today. There are engagement librarians in Alberta Law Libraries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, so much for that land acknowledgement and introductions. I am Rob Hudson. I'm very happy to be co-presenting with Angela today for the Alberta Law Libraries webinar. Do you get legal information questions? And of course you do. I can hear everybody nodding quietly out there. I've been a law librarian now for about 20 years. I really enjoy what I do. Every single day it's a little something different. And I actually work in the Edmonton Law Library branch, but I'll show you that we have multiple branches across the system. Could you advance this slide, please? We have some learning objectives today. If you're new and you've never heard of Alberta Law Libraries, well, welcome. I hope this is a real introduction for you and you can see what a network and a resource it is. If you've come to one of our law library locations, or maybe you even have a public library account, well, thank you very much for using our services. Please share that information with other people. We intend to make this interesting for everybody, whether you've gone to one of our law library locations or our website. And we do have some learning objectives that we hope that you will have as key takeaways for the presentation. Just a general introduction to our system and services. And we're going to make the case that it's unique in Canada for having the most access to both e-resources and our print resources in the country. We're going to feature some key resources, but honestly, it would take multiple webinars in order to introduce them all, demo them at the level I'd like to for other librarians who are listening to this. So we'll talk about the ones that are key for the public, accessible for the public, useful for answering those public library questions from your patrons. And then we'll talk about some of the open access and legal resource providers that are out there worth noting. highly recommended, vetted, information literacy. This is very, very current, kept up to date, authoritative. So we'll talk about some of those sources in future slides here. And then we'll have a very quick demonstration, and I mean screenshots, so of some of the key research tools in order to make it more hands-on, sort of like a lab for you. And then we'll explore ways to collaborate because we're engagement. We're here to try to make bridges with the public library community. And one of the things I'm going to be doing in May is going to the Marigold Library Conference. So if anybody is going there, come see me at the vendor table, the Alberta Law Library's vendor table, and or attend my lightning quick presentation for 10 minutes, which I'm planning for that same conference. I'm really looking forward to meeting you if you can see me there. Could you advance the slide, please? Here's our big disclaimer. This is our boundaries here. We are legal information specialists, but we're not lawyers. Even if some of us have a law degree or are licensed in certain jurisdictions, such as yours truly, we are not practicing lawyers and we don't give any legal advice. So what does that mean? All of the things you can see on this slide, opinions on a legal matter, telling clients or patrons or people what to do next, conducting these sorts of research, filling out forms for you. That's all the practice of law. And we stay away from that. We are really here to be facilitators or Sherpas or mentors to people who are trying to find legal information relevant to them at whatever stage they are. So it could be a member of the public, it could be a judge, or anybody in between. So we're ready and open for access to justice, regardless of the client, the patron that walks in. And so we'll be your guide on the side, but we're not lawyers. So please let people know that we're not lawyers, but we can refer you or refer patrons to legal sources and lawyers and things like legal aid, etc. Okay, next slide, please. If you're wondering if you have to come to Edmonton or Calgary, no, you don't. Look at how many locations we have here. We serve rural Alberta, northern Alberta, all the way up to Fort McMurray, all the way down to Lethbridge. And some of the locations are part-time staff by coordinators, and we love you. If any are out there, we shout out to you. There's several that are full-time staff by coordinators. All of these locations are in the courthouses in these communities. So if you go to any of them, you could ask for a tour. The other nice thing is once you're in there, as I'll show you in future slides, you can access our resources in a much more in-depth way than you can remotely. So I'd like to now transition to my partner here, Angela.
Thank you, Rob. You always surprise me with what you come up with, and I love your legal Sherpa. I think maybe that should be one of our mottos. So, hello everyone. My name is Angela Ashton. I was once a practicing lawyer in Alberta, and am now a law librarian. So I have a fairly unique perspective. I've been with Alberta Law Libraries since October. And of course, very happy to be here. So hello, everyone. So first off, just to give you a sense of the Alberta Law Libraries, our purpose is to promote informed engagement with the law and encouraging broad access to justice. So our comprehensive collection of legal sources in both print and electronic media is open to the legal profession. So that's lawyers, articling students, NCA students, so students who are looking to become accredited in Alberta, law students, and of course the judiciary, judges, and the public, including public libraries. Some of the things that we do first off, to understand, our collection was really built to be consists of electronic and print resources that are essential to the practice of law in Alberta. And it was created initially, I think, for lawyers. And so lawyers have certain privileges that the public does not. They get borrowing privileges, they can request customized research for a fee, and they can request document delivery for a fee. But anyone can come in and browse our collection, use our OPACs, our publicly accessed computers, with access to all of our electronic resources. And lawyers with a library account and registered public users can also access some of our e-resources remotely, including 14-day access to Westlaw. And I tell you, if you don't know what that means now, trust me, you will at the end of this presentation. And when we refer to our electronic resources, the main ones used by lawyers are Westlaw, Lexis Advanced Quick Law. We also have access to Hein Online and the LISA Library. That's the Legal Education Society of Alberta. They are in charge of professional development and education for lawyers, and they provide a number of resources and conferences that we have, refresher courses that we have the materials from. Okay, so in terms of the public, as we noted, members of the public are welcome to conduct legal research by visiting any one of our branches or registering to access some of our resources remotely. Residents of Alberta can register with the library and access legal books and digital materials for free online. And access is generally for 3 months for those services. Okay, and so the on-site materials are basically the two of the most common resources that lawyers use are primary and secondary sources. You'll probably hear that. Primary sources are things like case law, judge-made law, and legislation. And in addition to that, there are secondary sources which restate the law and provide commentary, analysis, description, or explanation. So textbooks, journal articles, and legal education materials, as I just mentioned, also form a part of our collection, both in print and online. And just one note about our branches, Edmonton and Calgary definitely are the larger branches, have the most materials and have the most, the longest hours. The smaller locations have few hours and can help with some reference questions, but you might be referred to either Edmonton or Calgary if you have a specific legal information request. Okay, and now I will turn it over to Rob to tell you all about our website.
Thank you so much. Our website's fantastic. You can see the URL right at the bottom there. And if you've never gone to lawlibrary.ab.ca, I recommend you do that. In fact, I'll assign that as homework. Please go to that website after the webinar and then put it in your bookmarks or put it in your favorites or on your desktop or whatever, because this is a really good starting point for assisting your patrons with their legal type questions, legal research or reference questions, or other things that you might encounter in the future. We have services for all of our stakeholder communities, but these are services particular to the public, okay? And being able to apply for a e-user account is really unique in the country. I lived in both BC and Ontario, and the courthouse libraries over there do not provide any sort of e-user account for the public. It's a temporary account, but it can be extended and it gives you some access to remote digital materials, depending on what the licensing is for each and every database. So this includes our great e-resources, and law libraries are still very much blended. We do have paper copies of things, older legislation. So we're still very much in a hybrid world when it comes to law library research. So in order to determine what sorts of resources you might need for the public, we have open access research guides. And I'll show you where those are living on our webpage. We keep them up to date. We try to keep them topical. We get a lot of questions here. I spend time myself on the front desk, and I get a lot of self-represented litigants who come in, many people in the areas of family law, for example, or wills and trusts and estates are looking for surrogate court materials. There's all kinds of interesting things that come in, and I can help them with these research guides. There's also going to be something we'll tell you about navigating legal information is sort of like a place to go if you're just really not sure what research guide or what subject area you need. And then we'll feature our blog and some of our social media outreach as well. The Stay Current blog, all three of us, Anna, Angela, and myself, are authors and editors of that. So we're going to encourage you all to subscribe to that to get more information. And then finally on that website, where I have the locations and contact information. So if you could forward the slide, please. So this is a screenshot of our main page, and I wish I could demo the page to you live, but we just don't have time. So if you could point out some of those nice features, Angela, follow the little red dot, but don't get hypnotized. The Stay Current tab is the blog. And so this is where you can go to find things, law library news, new cases, and legislative news. Right next to it is the Contact Us tab. Now, if I was to click that down, you can find all kinds of ways to contact us, phone numbers, and then the Ask a Law Librarian. And then right next to that is that navigating legal information. That is a good place to start. If it's just like, I have no idea, please help. This is a sort of a way to get through the first few steps, get yourself to a subject matter, get yourself to a source of law, whether primary, secondary, etc. So excellent. Right next door to that is the research guide tab. And I'll show you a couple of examples in the slides to come of 2 or 3 research guides. And I know I'm not unbiased, but they're up to date, and we have no dead links, and it's to authoritative legal information, not advertisement or low value things that aren't current out there that you might find with just a general Google search. But this is stuff that's highly vetted. And also you can see there's other ones there, services for the public, lawyers, etc. And our libraries would be where you could go to find that list of where the locations are. So you can go to one or contact a coordinator close to you. And you see the major tiles there, Ask a Law Librarian, which is a wonderful feature and a way to send an email to us. And you can see there's other ways to navigate. Okay, thank you. Could you advance the slide? Our e-resources, if you were to click that e-resources tab, it would pull down this menu. So these are subscribed to proprietary databases. Some we are able to share remotely, and some we're not, just depending on the licensing. So it's a little hard to generalize. The really exciting one that Angela mentioned earlier was Westlaw Canada, right down at the bottom. That is one of the premier legal research engines in the industry. Lawyers have it, law firms have it, courts have it, government agencies have it, and it's amazing and unique in the country that we do have the ability to give a 14-day limited access on request to Alberta residents. And this is a way to get to the primary sources and the secondary sources, because many of the commentaries and articles and law reviews and things like that are on Westlaw Canada are not available open text online. Another example is VLEX. Some of you may have remember VLEX Justice from other sources, research and libraries that you've worked at. Now, this includes a big series that we subscribe to called the Essentials of Canadian Law. And so it's an excellent way to get so in-depth and current information in various areas like torts in Canada, very specific to our jurisdiction and also Alberta too. So you can see all of these can be accessible to the people who have an e-user account. So that's the first step, is to apply for a public library card, which is a temporary 3-month access. Can be renewed. Okay, next slide, please. I talked about our research guides, and here's the first example because it's probably the most heavily used. Family law. We're in Edmonton here, right above the King's Bench Court. and many people come up here from the King's Bench looking for forms in this area of law, and so we're very familiar with the requests. We create a very good research guide. If I was to hit every one of those arrows on the right of the words text and case law legislation, it would open into a drop-down menu, and you could drill down into several layers to get to actual databases, sources, or external open access type links. So it works really well. When somebody sends me a question on Ask a Law Librarian, and I'm responding, they're saying, hey Rob, I have no idea how to look up child spousal support. I will always include a link to this family law guide in addition to other relevant information. Next slide, please.
And I'll just interject that you can see at the top there, on a aussi des ressources en français. Not all of the research guides are in French, but we have a number of them in French as well.
Merci beaucoup. A second example of our research guides, finding court forms and precedents. This is a very, very critical skill, and it's probably one of the hardest things for someone who's asking questions at your circulation desk or your reference desk. How do I fill out a form? Where do I find them? Why do I even need forms? And it's really true that people who are interacting for the first time with courts will find the form question to be a universally applicable situation. So we have lots of forms here. We don't fill them out. We're not lawyers, but we can at least tell people where they're located by subject, by court, and by other criteria. Precedents are sort of like models for documents you might want to fill out, a contract, for example. There's many different types of these, but it's extremely well done, and it's specific to Alberta. So I highly recommend this research guide. Next slide, please. And then on the online services, eRef, I really would like to feature Ask a Law Librarian. It's a team-monitored inbox, so it's email reference, and it's not just Angela and myself. It is really constantly monitored. We're open from Monday through Friday, 8:15 to 4, and there's somebody watching the inbox there for Ask a Law Librarian every day. And it doesn't matter what kinds of questions you might have. And if you're not even sure the right way to ask the question, if you just tell us that, then we can try to do a reference interview. Perhaps we could do a phone call or something like that in order to get the right information. But I get questions all the time. Do you have this book? Can I borrow this book? How do I access this resource? Are you open? Where do I find this, that? You get the idea. So just send us an email if you don't know for sure. And then we can either provide you the best that we can provide, or give you a reference to something else, like another organization. Angela will talk about some of those helper organizations that we're allied with in a moment. So I'd like to now pass it back to Angela.
Oh, I think is there one more slide? The
I don't want to forget
stay
this.
current.
The Stay Current
very
blog.
Important.
It's linked off the homepage, and you can see the blog categories across the bottom. Probably the most numerous category is case news. You can imagine there's 3, 4, 5 cases coming down every single day from the various courts here in Alberta. Sometimes we also include the Supreme Court of Canada, where it impacts Alberta, of course. Legislation news is coming from Alberta specifically. And the last one is Alberta Law Library news. So, for example, new titles was a recent blog posting there, and these are sent to you on a daily basis. And I just recommend that anyone who wants to subscribe to this, there's no charge, there's no reason to get a password, and you can stay current with us. So now I'll transition to Angela.
Okay. And I was just thinking about EREF, and I think that most librarians are curious, very curious by nature. And there's never a dull moment with the questions that we get, and often it's brand new. I remember someone asking, what if I accidentally discharge bear spray and injure someone while I'm hunting? And wow, that's a very interesting and specific question. But I, looked it up a bit, and I referred that person to Fish and Wildlife and explained there were national parks and provincial parks, so there would be different rules that would apply, but really never a dull moment. So we see all manner of questions, and we do our best to answer them. And often it's referring people to other sources as well to provide more information. And so some of the legal information providers that we rely on the heaviest are, well, the first one that I'd like to tell you about is Court and Justice Services. So if you have someone come in and say, I've been served, and I have no idea, I need to respond, or I don't know what to do next, the first thing I would do would be to give them information services number. And they have a number of things that they offer. They provide legal education and information, and also dispute resolution information, and information on navigating the court system. And they also have that, like, you can do it through a call center, which is great if you're in at the corner of the province. So it's really a great first step for someone who is involved in the court process or wants to file a document as well. And the next legal information provider, the Center for Public Legal Education, they're just incredible. They provide free online resources in French and many other languages, which is really spectacular. And they just have a staggering amount of information, and it's all in plain language. It's intended for the public to explain the rights and responsibilities under the law, and they have specific web pages just on topics. So they've got condominium law. Rob, you were talking about this earlier, elder law. It's really just a great place to refer people and to check if you're looking for information on a certain legal topic. The other service provider that we wanted to draw your attention to is the Edmonton Community Legal Clinic, or I think it's Center. I always call it Clinic. ECLC. There's also Grand Prairie Legal Guidance, which is one of their clinics, and they provide legal advice and information on family law, landlord and tenant, employment, human rights, debt, small claims, immigration, and income support. And what's really nice about their program is it is definitely geared towards people with a lower income, so who cannot afford to hire a lawyer. And it's almost a middle person situation where you go in, you can chat with them. They'll give you some information. If you're going to court, if you decide that's the option that you'll pursue, they might tell you a bit about that process and hopefully get you started on the forms that you need to fill out. So it's really a great service that we want you to be aware of. And so there's a few other free legal resources, and you'll see this in action shortly. But the first one that we wanted to tell you about is CanLII, which is short for the Canadian Legal Information Institute, which I can just never remember. Their mandate is to provide efficient and open access to judicial decisions and legislative documents. And so that is if there's a lot of lawyers in practice who don't have access to Westlaw or Lexis Advanced Quick Law. CanLII is where they go to find the leading cases, the legislation. It's updated very, I think Rob was talking about this before, very recent, and it's an excellent free resource. And also, very important, the Alberta Courts website, really the starting point. And I just wanted to very briefly tell you about, so with the courts website, you see on the landing page the 3 levels of court in Alberta. We have the Court of Justice, which used to be known as the Provincial Court, and they handle the vast majority of criminal and regulatory offenses in Alberta. And they also hear civil cases up to $100,000, and it used to be $50,000. few years ago. Family, youth, and traffic offenses. The King's Bench, formerly Queen's Bench, is the superior court, the superior trial court for the province, and they hear trials in civil and criminal matters and appeals from decisions of the provincial court. And last, but of course not least, there's the Court of Appeal, and they hear appeals from the King's Bench, Provincial Court, and Administrative Tribunal. And the last free legal resource I would like you to know about is Alberta Laws Online, or the King's Printer. They've been the official source of Alberta government laws, materials, and publications since 1906. And for lawyers who don't have access to the big legal databases, that's another, site that you have bookmarked, because it's the most current, up-to-date publication of the legislation in Alberta. And so at this point, you might be going, wow, this is a lot of information. And I agree. So we've put together a handy little handout for you that will be available digitally. We'll send it out at the end of this presentation. And I kind of think of it as your reference binder. Put it in there. Next time you get a legal question, you go, wait a minute, Alberta Law Libraries, I think they might be able to help. Pull this out. We've got all of the legal resources that we've told you about. We've got all of our contact information, and a QR code to our website that provides all of the services, a breakdown of all of our services. And so now I will turn it over to Rob, who will show you an example of navigating some of these resources.
All right, thanks very much. So I picked one very popular area of research for sure, immigration, and we do have a research guide under that tab on our web page, just right next to the family law guide, which I showed you before, and the finding court forms guide, and the other guides. There'll be guides on criminal law and all kinds of areas. So we pick the ones that get the most traffic, I think, for sure. So I really recommend starting here as opposed to like doing a general Google search or something like that, because when you do a Google search, you get advertisement, you get materials that are out of date. You may get things that are just from the United States and just get totally off track as far as a legal research question that is in the jurisdiction of Alberta, Canada. But if you start here, it's going to link you into vetted, very authoritative sources. And so that information literacy part of it is really verified. And you can see the on the right, the screenshot of the immigration pull down menus. We have the various sources, the primary sources of law, the case law and the legislation, which regulations would be thrown in there as well. And then the secondary sources that we have in our collection or can link to in authoritative places like the King's Bench Printer or the Canley, the things that Angela was just talking about. So if you get someone who comes up, for example, and says, how do I find a way for my children to come from my home country to Alberta, then you can come here and find that category. So we try to make it very intuitive. Next slide, please. I had a slide, I think 4 or 5 ago, that said publicly accessible e-resources. There's actually a lot more e-resources than just the ones that are available under that remote access for a temporary public user. So for example, if you really found yourself needing in-depth, or if you had somebody who was really asking you in-depth questions about various resources in the law, you can always have them come into a law library location, and all of these would be available to you. Once you're inside of our door, inside of our IP address, then the licensing on these proprietary databases become available to you so that you can compare, for example, what's on Westlaw to what's on Lexis Advanced Quick Law. And that gives you a lot of power as a legal researcher or as a self-represented litigant in the system. And there are a bunch of them, as you can see. The first one's very intuitive. It's about the criminal law. So if people come in with the charge and they say, what in the world am I supposed to do? There is an example of a place to start your research. Hein Online, I know many of you will recognize that from your own library collections or your academic libraries you've been associated with in the past. Well, it has a very, very strong Canadian law content, in addition to the sort of full text articles and things that Hein Online is very well known for, all the way back to the beginning. So it always goes back to issue 1, edition 1, which is why I love that thing. Also good for original pagination, all kinds of reasons. ICLR, if you have people that are asking about common law from outside of Canada or the United States, that's a very strong one. UK law, Australian, EU. It's more of a European focus for legal sources, which may not be duplicated in places like Westlaw and Lexis. You don't know till you try. And then when, I mentioned already the Irwin Law titles, the essentials of Canadian law that you can access, and Lexis Advanced Quick Law. Quick Law has been a brand for legal research here in Canada for a long time, and it's now part of the Lexis family. They don't allow us to share this remotely or give a 14-day temporary access like Westlaw, but you can come into a branch of the Alberta Law Libraries and search Quick Law. So you can advise people that are asking you questions that same thing if they're frustrated about what's available out there on CanLII, for example. And sometimes you can find more commentary and secondary materials on a platform like Lexis. KP Source Professional is sort of an upgraded subscription-based model of the King's Printer stuff that we saw before, but it has a lot more like older materials, older legislative materials. I use it, for example, to find what the Alberta regulations look like back in the 60s and 70s, for example. I get asked retrospective or historical legal research questions a lot because they're not as easy to find on CanLII. Rangefinder is about sentencing, so you can see what sentencing is if you're being charged with something like speeding or DUI or something like that. You can see what other ranges were sentenced. And we talked about Westlaw Canada VLEX. So incredible number of proprietary databases, legal resources that we subscribe to. It makes a self-represented litigant have the same power to research as a major law firm. And that's what we're in business for, is to provide access to justice. And part of that is legal information and research. Okay, the next slide, please. We're talking about CanLII a lot because it's really a gold standard for open access legal information in Canada. And it's part of a Legal Information Institute movement around the world, actually. There's Bailey in the UK, there's OSLI over in Australia and New Zealand. And they get together and provide open access rather than closed access, right? The Westlaws and the Lexises of the world see legal information as a business model, and they sell access to people who can afford to pay for it. But that's not everybody, and even lawyers don't all have access to the proprietary databases at the level they want. So we also sort of root for CanLII. That's the open access model. Very, very strong when it comes to primary sources. And then I refer to cases and regulations. All of our courts here in Alberta share the new legislation, the new court decisions, rules and regulations, etc., and it shows up almost immediately on CanLII in full text without requiring even a registration or a password or anything. So if you haven't gone to CanLII, you can see there's the URL across the top. Please do that and bookmark that as well. On the left is an example of the splash page for Alberta. I chose specific to just Alberta because that's a problem with doing Google's type research for law. What jurisdiction are you pulling the material from? Well, you don't want to know what the law is perhaps in New Brunswick. You want to know what's going on in Alberta. So if you start here, that's a good way to find Alberta specific materials. And on the right is the actual results page after I put in a generic search here, I think, for the word pension. And you can see it's full text links. It shows you how many pages, and it even gives you some nice options if it's a case, for example, to see what other cases have discussed it and all that sort of stuff. So it is kind of the poor man's version of Westlaw, with the exception it doesn't have the same amount secondary materials, the commentary and all that sort of stuff. So that's where Canley still is trying to catch up. Highly recommended. Okay, next slide. In that same research sort of scenario, I also recommend from our homepage doing a catalog search, and OPACs are familiar to everybody listening to this for sure. There's the link to our OPAC. And I really recommend an advanced search if you unless you're really certain about the way it's going to be spelled and look like. Our search OPAC search isn't exactly Google-esque, so it won't suggest things if you misspell it or are off by some sort of one word or something. I've been working at Alberta Law Libraries for a year, and I still get caught once in a while by putting in, a phrase, but I didn't put like the article in front of like the or and or something like that. So be a little bit wary. Try searching a couple of times. In this particular case, I put the word pension in again, and down below you can see I've got 127 results, and it'll show you where it's located across the 10 open publicly accessible law libraries and some others that serve the judiciary as well. The very first one there is in Lethbridge, so you can see it's all over the province, and you can see if it's checked out and all the various things in the item record. Okay, next slide, please. CPLE. I think we mentioned CPLE is a good place to go. Again, it's specific to Alberta, and that's why we just want to have you go here. And you know what? They take down things that have become obsolete, which is a sign of a good legal research website. CPLE is a publicly funded open access. This Law Central Alberta has subject-specific pages. They're excellent. One is called WillowNet, which is on elder law and all kinds of things that are very specific to Alberta and that particular area. And this one is on immigration. And this is all open access, full text, and it's a good place to find sources that you know are going to be reliable. And they also have links and things and bibliographies at the bottom that you can look for the primary sources of law, and also places for referrals. Like, for example, you see there's the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association Legal Clinic. So when I get a question on Ask a Law Librarian about, I don't know what to do, Rob. I'm in Calgary and I need some assistance. Well, I'll go to CPLE, I'll look up and say what kind of legal clinics there are. And if I can answer the question, at least I can give the person asking me a e-reference question a good referral. And that makes me feel like I'm being a good Sherpa. Next slide.
And I think that's back to me, but I have to say, Rob, I'm getting a great idea here for engagement. I think we should do ASMR where you have such a smooth and calm voice. It's very zen. Maybe you could read all the titles that we have and some of those electronic resources, because there's just so many titles.
At no extra charge, by the way. I'm happy to do that for you.
Exactly. Okay, well, we're going to look into that next. So we are in the home stretch. We have given you a lot to think about, and now we just want to invite you to collaborate. So to connect with us on behalf of a patron, connect with us if you have a question. We can connect with us and we will send you a poster and some stickers that have a QR code. So you can, someone comes in with a legal question, you point to the poster, they're on our website, lickety split. Come and visit us. As you now know, we have many branches throughout the province, and I'm a little bit biased, but I think we're kind of fun to hang out with. We enjoy talking to other librarians and just hearing about what's going on in the province. So please feel free to visit us. And then, of course, now you are required to visit us. And we were at the Southern Alberta Library Conference, and next it'll be the Marigold Conference. And so here is the branch information as well. And I'll put that up in a bit because I just wanted to go through what we're hoping that you'll walk away with. So our website, now you know where to go. When it opens, it won't be terrifying. You're familiar with it. You know what the basic tools are available for you for the public, and the Ask a Law Librarian, the research guides. So the main, I think of them as the jewels in our crown, are these wonderful research guides that really get you started in the best place when you're starting some legal research. And also Ask a Law Librarian. You can email from anywhere in the province. You can also call our branches, and we're happy to find as much as we can for you. And also, we would be remiss without mentioning some of the other fantastic legal resource providers. So CANLI, which is the, okay, I'm not gonna, Canadian Legal Information Institute. Okay, I think I've finally now memorized it. So CANLI, there's Court and Justice Services, very important, lots of services for Albertans. They're really focusing on providing mediation and alternative dispute resolution because, you know, going to court, especially in family matters, it can really take its toll. So there's a real push to provide alternatives to the court process to help people resolve these disputes. There's also Centre for Public Legal Education Alberta, or CPLE, just amazing, plain language, tons of different languages, all of the legal topics you can imagine. They're very up to date and current, the information, and it's just amazing. They just keep on. I think their next project is a family law website that I think that they're unveiling next month. So they're just always doing new and wonderful things. And then there's also the Edmonton Community Legal Clinic, or there's also Grand Prairie Legal Guidance. So you will definitely talk to people who really do need to talk to a lawyer. And so this is a way for people to get some legal advice, to talk to a lawyer if they have a low income, and hopefully get them on the right track and help them navigate the legal system. Okay, so now this is the fun part that I'm really excited about. We get to give stuff away, and so I'll do the housekeeping first, though. I'll make you wait. So we'll be sending the handout, slides, and the recording will be sent by email, and we also will be posting the webinar on our website, I believe, on the landing page near the bottom. And so now, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate it. So we wanted to thank you by offering a door prize. So the first person to answer this skill testing question correctly in the chat wins a lovely Alberta Law Library's coffee mug and a couple of other goodies. I tell you, I've been having lots of fun getting, I don't know if you can see, getting merchandise, pens, but it's a really nice pen. Like really, it's a pen that you're going to want to, you know, put in a safe place. You're not going to want to lose that pen. So the question is not about pens. It is, where can you find open access to Canadian case law and legislation? Maybe something that I've struggled with remembering.
We already got someone.
Oh, okay.
First one is Eva, Nicole, or is there two of you there? Or is it a last name, one of them? Anyway, great. Everyone got it right.
Yay.
I was thinking, I may try to unmute just one. Nicole Eva, thank you, Nicole from Lethbridge. Perfect. We'll send it to you. I'll contact you to get your information to ship it. I do have everyone's email, so I can contact you all. I was thinking I would just go to settings and see if I can unmute, and then people, if you have any questions, you can just ask them.
And while you're figuring that out, okay, I'll just go through. There are a few slides that we're not going through in detail, but that are included in the slides that you'll be receiving that just provide a little bit more information about these. Really, they are essential legal services in Alberta. So Court and Justice Services, there's that call center I was talking about, CPLE, all of the information that they provide, and then the Edmonton Community Legal Clinic as well. So that's at the end of the slide deck that you'll be receiving. And now I will stop sharing.
Okay. So yeah, I think you should be able to unmute yourselves if anyone wants to jump in with a question, or if you have any questions, you can just put them on the chat. Here we go. I have seen some of the decisions from Alberta courts are posted on CanLII, but not all. Do you have insight on which decisions get uploaded to CanLII or have tips to searching on these? Often when I have tried to use this, I have been searching for the names involved in the cases. So do you want me to answer that, or I can answer it? So I think basically on CanLII for new decisions, anything that is written by the judge will be posted on CanLII. So any decision that is written. The trouble is that many decisions in Alberta are not written. I would say for Court of Justice, the majority of the decisions are bench decisions. So the judge just kind of gives the decision at the court. And then they're harder to find. You could ask for a transcript. You have to pay quite a bit of money for that. You can call the court. They can tell you probably what the result was on the whole, but they're not really, nothing else is really available publicly or really to us either. We have to do the same thing. So it's up to the judges whether a decision is worth writing or not. For older decisions, it's a different story because we didn't have the online databases, so many of them were never really transcribed into a book. So some of those hidden ones we may have, although they were never published. But the new ones, basically, if they're written, and the only other thing that could happen is that there's a publication ban, in which case they could be written and just given to the lawyers or whatever and never published. But otherwise, if they're written, they're published on CanLII. I don't know if you have any other.
That was fantastic. No, it's just often there's a complicated question, or it's a complicated fact scenario, or it's a new fact scenario. And if judges are asked to interpret something that maybe hasn't been done before, or that's a bit tricky, then they're more likely to write the reasons.
Right. And if you get a member of the public who's looking for a decision on a matter and you can't find it, really they should just they will probably have to go in person to the, I mean, this may be brought online eventually, hopefully soon, but I think at this point they still have to go in person to the court or call them maybe and then probably pay some money to get some of the information from the file.
I'll just add that if you use Ask a Law Librarian and give the citation or as much information as you have, we have a document delivery service, and you can have somebody in our library try to find that case full text. So that's some just a tip if you have a citation but you can't find it and it just doesn't seem to be anywhere. Not saying that we'll find it. There are certainly lots of cases we can't find either. So that's just my 2 cents.
So one of our librarians who is attending, Anka, tells me that you cannot unmute. Sorry, I tried. I'm not sure. So please, if you have questions, just type them on the chat.
This is where, see, I was going to come in with some jokes. This is where the jokes, what was the joke that's not offensive in the least, Rob? What was it about? Or I have a good library joke. No, it's gone. Let's see if I can remember it. What's the tallest building? A library, because it has so many stories. I don't know if that's actually the joke. I feel like I really messed that up, but that's the gist of it. So.
Okay, well, I don't see anything else. If you have questions, do contact us through Ask a Law Librarians or directly to any of us, and we'll get back to you. And thank you so much for attending today. Hopefully, Rob and Angela will see you at one of your conferences throughout the province, and we'll probably try to do some more of these webinars, maybe on specific topics. Maybe once or twice a year would be good. So yeah, thank you all for attending, and I'll follow up with an email soon.
Thank you, everyone.